Okay, there is just something so delightful about a classic strawberry shortcake, and I promise you today's recipe will not disappoint. A buttery, tender shortcake biscuit is sandwiched between sweet macerated strawberries and lightly sweetened whipped cream. It is literally the perfect light summer dessert, and the best part is it's super easy to make. So we're going to start off with our strawberries. So I've got 600 grams or 3 cups of fresh strawberries here, and I'm just cutting the tops off and then slicing them. You don't want them to be too thick or too thin, so I usually just slice a single strawberry in thirds long ways. Now once all the strawberries are cut up, you just want to combine them with 50 grams or a quarter cup of white granulated sugar, and then just give that a good mix until it's well combined. Now you just want to pop these strawberries aside and just let them sit, and what's going to happen is the sugar is going to start drawing out moisture from the strawberries, and what you're going to end up with is this wonderful sweet liquid that the strawberries are going to marinate in, and it also helps to make the strawberries just a tad bit softer. So just pop your strawberries aside, and next we're going to start on our biscuits. So you want to preheat your oven to 220°C or 425°F conventional. Remember to lower the temperature if you're using a convection oven, and then you just want to line a sheet tray with parchment paper. Now you just want to set your tray aside for now, and next in a large bowl add in 270 grams or 2 1/4 cups of plain all-purpose flour, 30 grams or a quarter cup of cornstarch, 3 teaspoons of baking powder, a quarter teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 38 grams or 3 tablespoons of white granulated sugar. And then you just want to give that a good mix with a whisk until it's well combined. Now once that's done, then next you want to add in 165 grams or 3/4 cup of cold unsalted butter that's been cut into small little 1/4-inch cubes. Now you want to try and make the cubes as small as possible, and you can even just use a grater to grate the butter if you have sore hands, because the next step is to use your fingers to rub the cold butter into the dry ingredients. This technique is going to give us a nice flaky biscuit. Now you don't need the butter to completely disappear into the flour, but what you do want to do is break down any large lumps of butter and just make sure that all of the flour is coated in some of the butter. You'll kind of end up with like a breadcrumb kind of consistency, but the final mixture will be somewhat messy with visible bits of butter throughout. Next you want to add in 170 grams or 3/4 cup of cold buttermilk. You can easily use a homemade version for this recipe as well, and then you just want to use a fork to gently fluff the mixture together so that you end up with a shaggy dough. It's really important not to overmix, so once it's almost combined you want to stop there. Now next you want to turn the dough out onto a floured surface, and using lightly floured hands start to gently bring the dough together to form a rectangle that's about 3/4 inch thick. Again, it's really important not to overwork or overmix the dough, so once you've created that rectangle and the dough is holding together, you want to stop there. So once that's done, you just want to grab a cookie cutter, a glass, or anything that's got a round shape to it. Today I'm just using a measuring cup, and you want it to be about 2.5 inches in diameter. You then want to coat the ends in flour and then use it to cut out the biscuits. Now you don't want to twist while cutting the biscuits because this can affect how much they rise, so just push whatever you're using straight down. So you'll end up with about 4 biscuits to start, and then you want to bring the leftover dough together again and cut out more biscuits. You could also technically do this step by hand as well and just create little balls from the dough, but using something that's, round just helps to make sure that they're all close in size, and that way they'll bake a bit more evenly. Okay, so I've ended up with 6 nice and tall biscuits, and now I've just got a little bit left over, so I'm just going to make it into a smaller biscuit, which I'll either use for a shortcake or maybe just eat myself later. So once all the biscuits are done, you just want to place them onto your pre-prepared tray from earlier, and you want to place them relatively close together, and this is just going to help them rise even better. So you want them to be about 1/2 inch apart, no wider than that. Now before we pop these into the oven, I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of white granulated sugar on the tops of these biscuits. Now this is just going to add a nice crunch to the top, and you also don't need a lot of sugar, so about 1/2 tablespoon or so will be enough to cover all of the biscuits. Okay, so that is all ready now to go into the oven, but before you pop them into the oven, if you feel like they've taken you a bit of time to make and maybe it's quite a hot day, if you feel like the butter has softened a little, then for best results, I recommend popping these into the freezer for 10 minutes before baking for 15 minutes in our preheated oven or until the tops are golden brown. So my biscuits are all done now. They smell so wonderful and buttery. You just want to let them cool on the tray for about 20 minutes or so. And while they're cooling, we're going to go ahead and make our whipped cream. So to a bowl, add in 360 grams or 1.5 cups of cold heavy cream, 1.5 tablespoons of white granulated sugar, and an optional ½ teaspoon of vanilla extract or essence. And then using a hand or stand mixer on a medium speed, whip that together until you reach medium to stiff peaks. So just firm enough to hold its shape. Be careful not to over whip the cream though, so as soon as it starts to thicken up, you want to just watch it very closely. So once the whipped cream is done and the biscuits have come to room temperature, we can start assembling the shortcakes. So first cut a biscuit in half using a serrated knife, then on the bottom half place a generous amount of the macerated strawberries, along with that juice that the strawberries are soaking in. This is going to soak into the bottom of the biscuit and it's just going to add such great flavor to the shortcake. Next, you want to add a generous amount of whipped cream on top and then place the top half of the biscuit on top of the cream. Now to finish off, add some more cream on top and some more of the strawberries. Don't forget that strawberry juice, and then that is it. Your strawberry shortcake is ready to eat. These strawberry shortcakes are honestly such a light and refreshing dessert. The shortcakes are so buttery and crumbly. The strawberries add a great touch of sweetness and the whipped cream just brings the whole dessert together. It is so, so good. It is so good. The biscuit literally melts in your mouth. It is just so buttery and crumbly. And the strawberries just add such a refreshing pop of flavor and they're just like perfectly sweetened. It is literally the perfect summer dessert. It is so, so good. So that is it for today, guys. If you do decide to give this strawberry shortcake a go, then please do leave a review on my blog. It really helps my content out and I absolutely love hearing from you guys. I'll see you in the next video.